All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Willmann. It's my pleasure to welcome you for the 7th time to Leadership New Jersey's Forum on the Future of New Jersey. The title becomes more apt, it seems, every year. And this year, it is an even more interesting format that we are going to adopt. I'm going to tell you about the format, but before I do that, there are 3 people I need you to meet and acknowledge. The first is Diane Brake. The second is Catherine Kish. And the third is Andrew Sinclair. So if the 3 of them would come up here. For the international audience, we have to be in the light, so come up here. Otherwise, the people in China will not know what we look like. All right. And actually, there's a certain element of facetiousness to that. But you should know that thanks to NJN, thanks to Elizabeth Christopherson and Nyla Arano, this event is being streamed live worldwide, even as we speak. And in addition, thanks to the good offices of Steve Lubetkin, the podcast that you have come to recognize and download at some point is also underway. So it is being recorded and streamed live, and I believe the notion is that it will be available as an archive on the NJN website for about 30 days. So if you feel the need to go back and see how your question was evaluated or how you looked from the back, whether your hair looked good or whether if you're a middle-aged male, your bald spot was showing based on what Paul's doing back there, you can do that. This year, the topic is Clean Slate, Fresh Start. You have Catherine Kish and Diane Brake to thank for that. You have Catherine to thank in particular for the notion that what we want is the big idea. We're going to have 77 people speak today. 50 of them are going to speak for 4 minutes each. They are all among the best and brightest of New Jersey. And to think that we're going to be able to limit them to 4 minutes is a challenge. But we have arranged to do that. Bad things will happen to them if they go over 4 minutes. Well, you're going to push the button and evaluate their idea, so that may be shocking to them, but we will, in fact, have little cards that say 2, 1. I'm not going to be the victim of the speakers like Tom Brokaw was. So we're going to have people come out and just drag them away if they don't play by the rules. And there's a little bell that will go off, and finally there's a little card that says if they ignore the time cards, bye-bye. So we assume that because they're among the best and brightest, they will understand that. All right, back to Catherine and Diane. Catherine's notion, which helped to set the stage for today, is that we are not looking for the usual ideas. If you want to come and talk to us in your role as one of the 50 best and brightest about what you do, so you're from a hospital and you want to tell us that more funding for health care is okay, you certainly may do that. What we want you to do is use your position as one of those best and brightest as a New Jersey leader to say, what I think we need to do as a state in terms of creating a 21st century model for governance is this. So, for example, let's start at the highest level. Is it possible that we should no longer function as a state? Should we be functioning as part of a geopolitical and marketing region? Is the concept of New Jersey boundaries something that really doesn't matter anymore? Because that's not the way the world sees us. The world doesn't care about New Jersey. The world cares about the Port of New York and New Jersey, where a lot of stuff comes in and goes out. And they could care less whether Monmouth is in New Jersey or New York or eastern Pennsylvania or northern Delaware or southern Jersey. So that's the kind of notion that we hope to find. These 3 people have basically been responsible for all of the forums that have preceded us. They are the people who are the chairs for today. They are the people who deserve your applause. And the only people who deserve more applause from you are the sponsors. And we will get to them in a moment. And we have to especially recognize, and we will continue to do so all day, and I need your help. There's one sponsor who's been left off the list. It is Birdsall Engineering. I have to make that up to them. It is my fault. So during the day, I'm going to ask you just to say, who do we care most about? And you need to say in response, as one group, Birdsall Engineering. So by the end of the day, they will have gotten more play for their missed spot on our slide. I guess they're on the slide. They're not on the back of your program. All right. So Catherine and Diane and Andrew, they are the people who made it happen. Give them a round of applause, and we'll get on with what we're going to do. All right, you guys are out of here. Okay, that does bring us to the forum sponsors. So the Bank of America is the presenting sponsor. We are indebted to them every year, as we are to all of the regular sponsors. Presenting sponsor means a lot of money. So that means we are a lot thankful to them. Go down the list. First Energy, Jersey Central Power and Light, Becton Dickinson, Godwin Pumps, Gibbons, Valero Refining, Princeton Public Affairs, Children's Specialized, New Jersey Skylands, NJN, Prudential, and WMSH Marketing. Those folks certainly have provided the wherewithal to make today happen, so we will try to remind you during the day when more of you are in the room. But now in China, in India, and God knows where else, they know about those folks, so that's good. If you go to the next slide, there are there are organizations who every year are supportive of LNJ, and the list includes ADP, Atlantic City Electric, Elizabethtown Gas, the same First Energy, Jersey Central Power and Light that's a sponsor today, the Dodge Foundation, Merck, NJR, Prudential again, PSE&G, Shearing Plow, Verizon, and other folks who from time to time step up and are supportive in ways that matter, often in terms of goods and services, but most often and most important in terms of dollars on the table. So we thank all of them. That ends our thank yous for right now. The next person I'd like you to hear from is the man who makes LNJ go. You will meet some of his colleagues during the day. You'll meet Stephanie Carter, young lady over here. You'll have met Sarah Slayman outside. But Tom DeLessio is the man who has revitalized Leadership New Jersey. He's the man who makes all the programs run, and certainly, along with Catherine and Diane and Andrew, a person who is responsible for today. So we'll turn the podium over to Tom.
Thank you, Michael, for that kind introduction, and my personal thank yous to Michael Willmann, Catherine Kish, Diane Brake, Andrew Sinclair, Ted Deutsch, and all of the folks who have been part of this most important effort of the 2008 Forum on the Future of New Jersey. For those of you who may not know, the folks who may be out in the webcast, Leadership New Jersey is a program that includes over 1,000 fellows who have, over the last 22 years, come together to bring their skills to the state level. We try to help leaders in New Jersey become leaders for New Jersey. We try and help leaders work together to ensure that we have a higher quality of life. So if you're looking for more information on Leadership New Jersey, I encourage you to go to our website, www.leadershipnj.org. You can find out more information. As Michael has indicated, we are thankful to NJN for streaming this live. You'll be able to find that on our website. We also have a podcast that's happening. Thank you to Steve Lubetkin and the work that they're doing. We also will have a professional writer, Bob Barker, who's actually putting this stuff together. So we thank Bob Baker for that work that he's doing. And then last but not least, I would like to also thank my staff, Sarah Slayman-Shebley and Stephanie Carter, and all of the volunteers that have helped to make this effort possible. I'd like to also thank the Board of Trustees at Leadership New Jersey and our graduate organization. And at this time, I'd like to call Phil Salerno, who's the president of the graduate organization and is a member of the Board of Trustees of Leadership New Jersey. Phil.
Thank you. Tom gave you a great overview of what Leadership New Jersey is all about. And once you go through Leadership New Jersey, as many of you here know today, it's one of the most important career decisions you can make and career experiences that you can have. And once you finish that experience, you're not really ready to move on and just let that to go by. And so the graduate organization offers people an opportunity to continue that networking, continue that development, continue your interest and commitment in the state of New Jersey. And we do that through a series of seminars and different celebrations, activities that allow the network to continue to flourish. And we just want to thank everybody for being here. I, too, want to add my acknowledgement to NJN, to the staff of Leadership New Jersey, to Michael, Diane, Andrew, and Catherine for their outstanding effort. I couldn't think of a more relevant topic than the topic they've picked for today. And there's always that challenge that when you first begin planning a conference like this, you're hoping that what you start talking about a year ago is as relevant the day as it is the day of the conference. And today is just an outstanding conference. This offers you really the opportunity to see what the best about New Jersey is. to have thought-provoking speakers, some of the leaders in their respective fields, to have an opportunity to provide impact and to begin to shape what happens in our state. And so to Michael and everyone involved, thank you so much for that chance.
All right. I was remiss in not pointing out to you that when you came in, you had the opportunity to pick up a fat pack of papers, which was the biographies of the people who are going to be speaking today. So you can sort of follow along. We're not going to take the time to say this is Joe Smith or Mary Smith and Joe or Mary did this or that. But I invite you because they're all fascinating people. I mean, we would be pleased to have any one of them as a featured speaker, but to have 50 of them who are willing to indulge us by being in this format is terrific. Next, we want to hear from our host today. As you know, NJN has been generous in providing us a place to present the forum since the beginning of the concept, and we certainly can't thank them enough. The thanks starts at the top. It includes certainly Nyla Aronow and somebody who is just terrific, Eileen Mastrogiovanni, who's the person who makes all the stuff in the room happen, or at least coordinates it. But there is a person at the top who has been generous and who has, in addition to she just lets us be here, and we're happy for that. And as you know, this has been a difficult time for NJN. There is a plan in place which is emerging, which will allow it to be perhaps even better and stronger ultimately than it has been, and continue to be the resource, the treasure for New Jersey that it is. And certainly one of the resources within the resource, one of the treasures within the treasure is Elizabeth Christofferson, who is the executive director.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Michael, for recognizing some of the great people at NJN, Nyla and Eileen, and really our crew here today, as well as the people who are working elsewhere in the building, too. And it's on behalf of that great team that it's my pleasure to welcome you yet again back for the 7th time, and hope many more times in the future, Michael and Tom and all who helped shape today, too. You know, it was over 40 years ago that NJN was created as a voice and conscience for our state. And while media has certainly changed a great deal, Michael, you pointed out that we're streaming now, and there are many other ways that you can access NJN, from satellite, cable, online. Really, it's on your phone soon, and many other ways, too. What really remains constant is our need to really deliver quality information. So many of you are newsmakers who are on our news, watch our news, support our news, and know the importance of really helping people become aware of the issues that you deal with every single day. So with that awareness, that they become more engaged, more active, more civically involved, to make our state a better state, too. And we are so privileged to work with so many of you as partners to really provide a forum for many diverse voices in our state. And I'm delighted that, for example, tomorrow we'll be broadcasting the governor's address. We'll be doing the debate with Lautenberg and Zimmer on November 1st. And we continue to do many things that other media don't pay attention to in our state. But my invitation, my request to you today, as you think innovatively, as you think out of the box, as you think in new ways for that big idea, Michael, is to think how you partner with NJN in terms of delivering and connecting with the people of our state and our region, because it is so vital, I think, that people have a quality resource that they can turn to, and really that this is a resource that we continue to want to build upon, as we'll have more ways to reach people, broader audiences to reach people, and really create a sense of global citizenship and future for our state, too. So with that invitation to think how you can continue to partner, use us, come up with ideas. Michael's right. We'll also say that we'll welcome your ideas to continue to support us financially in other ways, and to say, again, that I hope today is a very productive day. I'm proud that the day starts off with a keynote speaker that we claim as one of our board members, Congressman Franks, and we're delighted that you're going to have a day to hear from many other voices today that, again, will help shape an important future for our state. Thanks again for being here. You really win the prize for being here early. I know others will be joining along the day, and it's great to see you again.
Just so you realize that we haven't lost our flair for the sort of the colloquial, the idiomatic, the lighthearted. There will be times during the day when I will be winking, and I would appreciate it if you all would respond in a way that indicates that you know that I'm winking just at you. And I would like to start with a shout-out to Beijing. Welcome, Beijing. We're glad to have you. Next year we'll do this at least in Mandarin, but this year you'll just have to bear with us and know that we're enjoying ourselves here. All right? So if you have a shout-out you want to offer during the day, put it on a card, send it up, and we promise to trash it. All right? All right. We want you to have fun. We want you to remember that you have a keypad, and that as we go through the day and as we hear from the speakers, you're going to be asked to vote. We're going to start after we hear from Congressman Franks, who is going to set the tone for the day. We're going to hear about a poll which Monmouth University and the Gannett papers were nice enough to let us participate in terms of sort of setting the tone and finding out what people statewide were thinking about what we're going to be talking to you about today. You're going to get to give your answers to those poll questions. We have a series of questions just for you. And then as people speak, so as Dr. Harris gets up and speaks later and tells us that his idea is a chicken in every pot, you will be able to respond. We will say, so, Rich Harris says a chicken in every pot. What do you think? We'll give you a scale of 1 to 5. If you think it's a crummy idea, how does that translate into Mandarin? I don't know, crummy. You'll give it a 1. If you think it's a great idea, you'll give it a 5. And thanks to the folks at Prudential Financial and Ignacy Connick, we will see immediately on the screen the totality of your answers. So Rich will have the immediate feedback, very positive, that a chicken in every pot was, in fact, an idea whose time has come again. Or he will slink away in shame because you have given him a 1. And, you know, a man who's the director of the Walter Rand Institute for Public Affairs at Rutgers would not want to. So whatever, give him a 5, all right? So now, are we all set to go? We're hitting the mainstream part of the program. And it starts with the president of the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey, known to you, as Elizabeth said, for certainly years of public service in many capacities, but somebody who's been nice enough. I refer you to his bio, which you will find on page 6. That means that I am spared the difficult task of selecting a couple of nuggets from that bio to offer to you. Read the whole thing. Congressman Franks.
Michael, thank you very much, and good morning, Beijing. I'm truly delighted to be here today, but there will be few winks in my presentation, few jokes, few efforts at levity, because what you've established today is a forum to discuss the future of New Jersey. And I want to go on record at the outset of telling you one important fact. And that is that for the first time in my adult life, I fear for the future of New Jersey. I've come to a regrettable conclusion that unless we make significant, substantial revisions to the way in which we govern ourselves in this state, our standard of living will inevitably decline. Being a lifelong resident of this state, a true New Jersey chauvinist, proud to be a product of New Jersey's public schools and sending my 3 young daughters to public schools, I simply want them to enjoy as many or more opportunities that I've enjoyed as a resident of this state. And if we continue on the current pathway, I do believe my kids will have fewer opportunities. That is significantly wrong, and we need to come together to chart a new course. I'm going to get right into a list of specific changes because the challenge today is to clean the slate, to develop a new process by which we will govern ourselves, a new architecture that can be more responsive to the needs of the state than the one currently in effect. Let's start with some issues that are surrounding the buildings down the street. Let's start with the state legislature. great group of dedicated men and women who work hard to advance the public interest, but candidly, that branch of government has lost its way in some important respects. I would do a couple of things. Number one, I would pay the legislators more money to meet less frequently. I would like to suggest that we pay our legislators between $100,000 and $125,000 a year, and then ban all outside income, earned income. They can clip coupons from their massive investments in those rare instances where they have them. But let's cause legislators to work exclusively for the public for that period of time that they would like to dedicate to public service. Let's pay them well and ban all outside income, because if you look at the common denominator of all the troubles that seemingly have visited upon members of the legislature, it really doesn't relate to their public function in terms of the laws they write, generally. It's about outside income sources. If you take those off the table and require people to just work for the public for their term of office, I think we can clean out a lot of those problems. Secondly, we should ask them to meet less frequently. Other states focus the legislative calendar to 30, 60, 90, 120 days. Let's use 90 as a round figure. For a period of time every calendar year, for 90 days, the legislature can be in session. That means they need to order their priorities, develop their agenda, begin a session on a particular day, and meet for 90 days, and then it's over. Can you come back under emergent circumstances? Yes. But this current calendar of meeting, essentially having an open calendar 365 days a year, is ridiculous. It doesn't serve the interests of efficiency or responsiveness. Let's pay them more, ask them to meet during a fixed period of time on the calendar, require them to organize their work more effectively, and pay them better. You can't ask people to do this for free. If you're going to ask them to do this and only this, let's pay it what it's worth. Secondly, let's enact a post-employment ban. For at least 2 years after you serve in the legislature, you can't be a lobbyist who lobbies the legislature. Congress followed that pattern a number of years ago, and while it still is a problem in Washington, D.C., it is a lesser problem, and we should enact the same kind of reform, a post-employment ban for members of the state legislature. Next, we should limit people to only one public job. Now, I'm not talking about dual office holding, elective positions. I'm talking about one public job, meaning if you work for a county government in a paid position, for example, you shouldn't also collect a paycheck from the legislature. You should have one public responsibility and only one at any given time. Now, if you move toward a full-time legislature, well paid, obviously you could only have that one job. But let's continue the efforts to reduce the number of masters that people are trying to serve and limit folks to one public responsibility. And I also am counting volunteer activities like school board members, because folks should be serving in the legislature with only one mission in mind, serving the interests of those 220,000 constituents on every issue, not looking in a more limited fashion at their concurrent responsibilities, one place being a school board responsibility and the other being a state legislator. Let's get people dedicating their time, their efforts, their intellectual resources on the very significant problems that confront New Jersey today, and indeed clean the rest of the slate. Initiative and referendum. It's been an issue that we've talked about in this state for 30 years. And people said, oh, what a mess it will make of New Jersey. Well, in a lot of respects, ladies and gentlemen, I would suggest we've made a mess of New Jersey in the absence of initiative and referendum. I am not talking about initiative and referendum as you find it in California. That is a runaway system. It's open-ended. You have a document created every fall by the Secretary of State in California that can be 100 pages that talks about the text of each of the referendums that voters are going to be asked to express their point of view on. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a limited system of initiative referendum. But democracy has become so anemic in America, and particularly so, in my opinion, in this great state, that we need to enliven it. We need to make people more direct stakeholders in the conduct of our public institutions. And there's no more important a way that that can be done than allowing citizens to directly petition for change. I'm talking about an indirect system, which means a question that was certified would go to the legislature, who would be given 90 days to deal with it, yay or nay. Only upon them failing to act on it would it go to the people at the next general election. But it would be a check on the legislature. If the legislature was refusing to come to terms with an important issue on the horizon, the people could focus that question for the institution. There would have to be regional contributions to the statewide signature requirement. Let's face it, in many instances, South Jersey doesn't trust what North Jersey will do with a power like that. They don't trust the current institutions to get a fair share of public resources. But you can configure this system. Any number of folks have tried in the past. Democracy is waning. People's faith in their and trust in the capacity of government to effectively represent them has become a crisis. We need to turn the page and start again, giving individuals in New Jersey the power of indirect initiative and referendum would be a jolt, a strong jump start to reinvigorating our democracy. Let's talk about elections for a minute. I know it's popular to say that the clean elections experiment has failed. This is a classic instance where, in my judgment, we're allowing the perfect to become the enemy of the good. Clean elections was a good idea and is a good idea. It needs to be conducted in a better process. What do I mean? Folks, I believe that competition is key in elections. I believe that we should issue an instruction to the State Legislative District Reapportionment Commission for the purpose of creating the next set of assembly districts in 2010 that would go into effect for the 2011 elections. We should instruct them to develop as many competitive assembly districts as possible. Now, why do I say assembly districts? Because I believe the interests of our democracy and in the engagement of our citizens will be enhanced if we have Senate districts and assembly districts not all overlapping. That we could allow for more competition at the assembly level, but competition stems from the ability of an individual to be able to overcome the strength of a party organizational apparatus, which is why I believe we should give public money not in the general election, but in the primary election, to allow voters to have a better choice in November. Let's give them a more meaningful choice in June. I would like to see public financing in New Jersey. I know it could cost $100 million, $120 million, some have suggested. Folks, the inefficiencies of state government today, the Christmas trees, which some will tell you are a thing of the past, but all the vagaries of the shenanigans of Trenton cost us hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars every year. A small investment in protecting the integrity and the level of competition that our election system can spawn can actually save us money and rekindle faith and confidence in the institutions of our government. There's a provision of the New York State Constitution that I also find really fascinating. Every 20 years there's a question. Should a constitutional convention be convened for this state? And if you don't think it should be, you vote no. And if you believe that there are a number of issues that need to be resolved that the current configuration of the government isn't dealing with effectively, you vote yes. On a time-honored basis, every period of years, you get to vote. Shouldn't be too frequently. We don't want runaway, constant constitutional conventions. Maybe New York State's got it right in having it 20-year increments. But it would, in my judgment, again, give the power to the people of New Jersey to decide whether a forum should be convened to look at issues that the current architecture of the government has failed to deal with in a meaningful fashion. Financially, what can we do? A couple things. We've made some improvements in this regard, by the way. We're about to be able to vote on a constitutional amendment sponsored by Senator Lance and Senator Lesniak that will limit the ability of the legislature to borrow money without voter approval. Just a hunch. I bet that thing passes big. But we shouldn't stop there. We've got a comptroller, Matt Boxer, in the state of New Jersey. He does a good job, by the way. I think Matt is looking in a lot of places, and he's come up with some good recommendations to save money. But a better idea is to have that comptroller be truly independent and be elected in a statewide election. Allow him or her to have allegiance and loyalty to only one boss, the taxpayers, not the appointing authority of the governor of the state of New Jersey. We've gotten that one half right. Let's go the other half and get the job done appropriately. We need a performance review committee. I served on the Budget and Appropriations Committee down here. It was a great experience. You got to kind of look at priorities and decide how much new revenue should be allocated to what compelling need. But it was always striking to me that while we talked about looking for efficiencies in state government as a legislature, as the keeper of the public purse, we didn't have any committee, not one, standing reference committee whose sole job was to look for increased efficiencies, better performance from the monies we're already investing. We need a performance evaluation mechanism in the legislature. And we need to put the same kind of premium on that committee's jurisdiction as we've put on the Budget and Appropriations Committee. One committee, at least one of these 20-odd standing committees, should focus exclusively on trying to save money and improve the performance of state government programs. There's an overwhelming belief, naive or not, on the part of most New Jerseyans, that we could balance the budget as far as the eye can see if we just cut the waste and the fat and the ridiculous spending out of this state budget. And that question will remain primary in the minds of voters until it is demonstrated that that is not a true statement. And we can't reach an answer to that question in the absence of having a committee dedicated exclusively to it. I know a number of legislators, including Steve Sweeney and others, have looked to try to create such a mechanism. All right, lastly, because I'm giving about end up my time here. I got one more, and it's the judicial branch. How many lawyers in the audience? Okay. Don't throw anything. I'm told we have a history of a great judiciary, a beacon of hope for jurists around the nation. I guess I'll agree to that. I don't know better than that. So I'm going to assume we have a history. But the history I know and the history I've witnessed lately in the last 20 years would suggest that we have a judicial branch and a state Supreme Court so ambitious to make New Jersey something that they would like to see in the future, that they are not only directing the legislature to create massive new programs, but they're telling you precisely how much and where to spend that money. Ladies and gentlemen, that's wrong. That is evidence of a broken system of government. We need to let you, all of us, vote on giving tenure to Supreme Court justices. Not appointment. Let that go exactly as it is now. But after 6 or 7 years where you come up for the tenure vote, that tenure vote shouldn't be in the state Senate. Every person in New Jersey should have the opportunity to reflect on that question, whether that jurist should get life tenure or 70 years old before they're retiring. Folks, I have more, but I hope I've set the stage for some food for thought of what you're going to hear for the rest of the day. There's a great opportunity. We've got to change this state in order to save it. And I believe Leadership New Jersey and all of the opinion leaders in this room can make a very meaningful contribution to achieve that end. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. No.
Thank you, Mike.
Stay here. We'll, I remember to pick up my mic. We'll get you involved right now. I just said no to questions, which was a pretty cavalier response. I didn't really mean it that way. What I wanted to do was recap, because Bob set the stage so well with his ideas, let you vote on those ideas right now. Scott, can we do that? First question, and if I get these wrong in my summation, first notion was a full-time legislators being paid $125,000 a year. If you are in favor of that, if you think
banning all outside income.
And banning all outside. That's why Bob stayed here. All right. So if you think that's a great idea, you give it a 5. If you think it's a bad idea, you give it a 1. You have the range in between. I count you down 3, 2, 1. By the time I say 1, you have to have voted. You see the response up on the screen. So you ready to vote on that idea? 3, 2, 1, vote. Voting is done. Survey says 60% think it's a great idea. Basically, 80% think it's an idea whose time has come. Next, legislature should meet less often. Is that a fair way to summarize?
Every day for a focused period of time, for example, 90 days, as other large states, including Texas, do.
You got the idea? You love it, 5. You hate it, 1. 3, 2, 1. Your votes are in. Okay, so basically you have 78% of you thinking that's an idea that we need to look further at. The next one was what I would call a post-employment ban.
After you serve in the legislature, at least a 2-year employment ban on being a lobbyist, lobbying your former colleagues.
5, you love it. 1, you hate it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote. Glitch, I was told. Elizabeth, how do we say glitch in Mandarin? I asked Elizabeth because she actually speaks Mandarin, and probably about 47 other languages too, but we should have had her do the shout out to Beijing, but in Mandarin. By the way, while we're waiting, I have started a wooden arrow company in New Jersey, so I'm going to ask you later if you think it's a good idea that a wooden arrow company would somehow be in a privileged position. So just think about that, and I'd personally appreciate a 5 vote on that. So what are we doing, Scott? The system is frozen. Keypads are frozen. All right, let's just do a show of hands, because I really think that these ideas deserve to have your reaction. If you think that's a good idea, this is either yes or no. A good idea, raise your hand. I think that's pretty fair. That was overwhelming. The next thing was, if you only get one public job, whether it's paid or volunteer. Is that fair?
If to be in the legislature, one public job. That's it.
Yes or no, raise your hands. That's almost the same. Okay. So far you're like, you should be governor or something. I don't know. All right. The next one was initiative and referendum. Not California, but basically the question goes to the legislature doesn't act, then it gets to be put on the ballot.
That's it.
Yes or no? Yes, raise your hand. We had a couple dropouts, but we're still running about at least 70%. Yes. Push your clear button on the keypad. All right, we'll try to vote on the next one, but we'll do hands as well. The next one was clean elections. So basically telling the folks who draw the legislative districts to make the damn things competitive. You didn't say damn. You wouldn't say
Assembly districts competitive, and, yeah, well, that's a freestanding.
All right. So if you're in favor of that, you try the voting on the keypad, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but also raise your hand. So vote, and if you think that's a good idea, raise your hand also. This is multitasking. How do you say that in Mandarin, Elizabeth? I don't know. The next piece of clean elections was the public financing, but for the spring, for the primary. Fair?
It is.
Okay. Did we get a vote on that, Scott? Did it come through? All right, we're still frozen. See, that's terrible because actually the consensor is really the star of the show every year. We'll get that fixed somehow, he says, having no idea whether it will get fixed. All right, so yes or no, public funding, but for the primaries. Yes, raise your hand. We're getting some dropout here. I'd say we're at 50, maybe 55, 45. Okay. The next was the Constitutional Convention. We're back. All right, Constitutional Convention. Not necessarily New York every 20 years, but some regular. You guys get to say, yes, we should have a Constitutional Convention because we're so upset that these various issues have not been dealt with. Fair statement? All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote. We'll see if we got you. All right, you got to vote, you know. Is this some kind of statement? No, just kidding. All right, we'll try it on the next one. Raise your hands if you think it's a good idea. All right, we're back up in the upper reaches again. The next one was what I would call the elected comptroller. Try to vote. Clear. Vote 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 is good, 1 is bad. And now, if you think that's a good idea, raise your hand. Okay, now we're cooking with gas again. Did we get a vote, Scott? No. All right, he's teasing us. Next was having a standing committee in the legislature created that would basically be charged with performance evaluation, some kind of mechanism, undetermined. Is that a fair statement?
Joint committee. Most people would envision this committee. I know Steve Sweeney's been talking about a joint legislative executive branch because both those people, the people who create the programs for the legislature and administer them through the executive branch, would have to get together to add value to a performance evaluation process.
See, he lost me there. Getting together to add value, executive, I just don't think it's going to happen. That's just a personal comment. No, I'm just teasing. All right, if you're in favor of that, the joint effort to do the performance evaluation on a standing committee kind of basis, raise your hand. Okay, that's good. And then I think the last one was what I would call the tenure vote after 10 years or something for members of the state Supreme Court. Scott, should we try again or not? All right. We're on hold, consensus-wise. So if you're in favor of the idea that the state Supreme Court members should be subjected to a 10-year vote at some point, say 10 years, raise your hand. Okay, that was a little less than some of the others, but I think you were over 50% on everything. That was a perfect beginning. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Now, where is my man Patrick? Come on up, Patrick. Our technical difficulty is going to prevent what Patrick was going to do for us, guys over there at the important desk. Tell me. We're going to be able to see Patrick's PowerPoints?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So, let me introduce Patrick Murray, who heads up the Polling Institute at Monmouth University, and whose organization, in conjunction with the Gannett papers, did the poll, which you read about in this morning's paper. My headline, which I will go find for you, basically says 9 out of 10 New Jerseyans think state government is broke. Not broke as in bankrupt, broke as in ain't working. So Patrick is going to introduce you to the results of that poll. And then if we have the consensus back up, we're going to ask you to vote on the same questions that people across New Jersey voted on. All right? So you can read about Patrick in your biographies, and we're turning the presentation over to him. Would you like this, or would you like to go there?
I'll take that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yes, I titled this, What's the Matter with New Jersey? And I want to preface that with saying that there's a lot that's right with New Jersey. And I see that in our polling information. There's a lot that people value, but they're losing faith in the ability of our system to attack those problems. And so I'll go through a few of the numbers that we have from today, the poll that was released this morning, as well as some recent polling, to give you a sense of where we stand in terms of government tackling the issues that people care about. So, starting with the direction that the state is headed in. It's been headed in the wrong direction for years, and I'll walk over here because I'm being told to do that. But I don't think you'll get this on the camera, so I'll just explain for those of you overseas what it says here. Right now, 64% say the state is off on the wrong track, and that's an increase even over the past year when it wasn't doing so well. We're just not headed in the right direction according to two-thirds of New Jerseyans. Next slide tells us just some key questions about where the governor is doing right now. We have his approval rating at 40%. This slide shows that it started dropping early this year. The moral of this story is that proposing an 800% toll hike can really ruin your day. And so the governor has not fully recovered from that so far. In fact, on the next slide, you see the grades that he gets on the key issues that are really facing the state. You look, he's getting D's on property taxes, D's on his handling of the cost of living. And, these are key things that I'm going to show you in just a second. But let's turn, it's not just the governor. On the next slide, we see that the state legislature is doing even worse in terms of how the voters see them performing. We have 47% who disapprove of the job of the state legislature versus just 29% who approve. So again, there's a sense there that the government is just not working on behalf of the people. Turning to our next slide here. This is from today's poll. We presented New Jerseyans with a list of 14 different issues that we knew would come up today and certainly are facing the state, and asked them to rate how serious each of these are as a problem on a scale from 1 to 10. If you look at those list of 14 items, you will see that all 14 of them rate above a 5.5 on our scale, which means that all of them are a problem. But New Jerseyans were really easily could identify which ones were key priorities. And number one, by far, is property taxes, which got an 8.7 out of 10, which is about as high as you can get in this kind of rating system. We then, no question that property taxes is the number one issue on people's minds. Now, the governor tomorrow is going to address the legislature and address the state basically about how the state can handle the financial issues that we're facing right now because of what's going on in Wall Street. But New Jersey voters already identified what the state can do to help them make ends meet, and it's property taxes. Now, 2 years ago, we had a special session, right, to deal with the property tax issue. So why is this still number one? Give you some more information from our past polling over the past couple of years, which said after that session ended and we got what was the solution at that time, which was basically a kind of a return to rebate checks, is that our polling indicated that very few people saw this as long-term relief. Very few people saw that as significant relief. They're still saying property taxes is their number one issue. But if you look at the tier 2 issues that are on this slide that we have here, again, cost of living comes up. Cost of living at 8.4, healthcare costs at 8.1, wasteful government spending at 8.3. Again, there's an issue where a lot of folks, and I've heard this recently, we keep hearing this again and again, that there's not enough waste to close the gaps in our budget. But what this poll is telling us is that you've got to make an honest effort to close those gaps and then come back and say we still need to make up that money. The sense that we're getting here is that government is not serious about attacking waste. Even if that waste doesn't make up a lot of money, show that you're serious and working on the taxpayer side. And I'm not saying this from a personal point of view. My job here at the Monmouth University Polling Institute is to kind of give voice to the people. I know there are pundits who spend their times roaming the halls of Trenton, and they'll feed back what they hear in the halls of Trenton. I spend my time roaming New Jersey diners, and I try to give back the voice that I hear in the diners across the state, and this is what they're saying. We'll turn to the next slide here, and here's the key issue. I talked about that special session 2 years ago. Property tax is still at the top of the list. New Jerseyans don't believe that government, as it's structured now in New Jersey, works for them. The structure. This question was about the fundamental structure of New Jersey. The vast majority says it needs to be improved, with 2/3 saying it needs a major overhaul. Because they don't know, we just heard Congressman Franks give a couple of examples of things that he thinks should be done in terms of a major overhaul. The average New Jerseyan doesn't know what those tasks are. They do know that a special session was called to deal with property taxes. The special session couldn't solve the property tax problem, so there must be something fundamentally wrong with the way the state government works. Whether or not you believe that's true or anybody else believes that's true is a separate question. New Jerseyans believe that that's true. And what's the impact of this? Well, notwithstanding a recent Princeton study, which seemed to indicate to the opposite, all the other indications are that people are deciding they can't fight it anymore, and they're going to leave the state rather than try to stay here and fight. Even though the other indications we're getting into the poll from the polling that we've been doing over the past year is that the quality of life in New Jersey is good and probably is superior to a lot of other places. It's just that the cost of living in New Jersey is something that is too hard to bear, and there's a sense that their leaders, their elected leaders, just don't get it. So I'll give the information to you. Our website is monmouth.edu/polling. Any of you who want to get more information about this poll or any of our past polls, it's all there. Also, if you want to be among the first to find out about our polling information, you can sign up for our email list there, and you'll find out about what our polling numbers say before it actually hits the morning newspapers. So you'll be the first in the know. So I welcome you to all to do that. Hopefully, this sets up a little bit more about what we're going to talk about today. Thank you.
All right. I have to show you the headline from one paper this morning, one Gannett paper. I don't know whether you can see that. Whoops.
This is just like MSNBC.
It is. So, poll, New Jersey government broken. Clearly, I'm not equipped to deal with several pieces of paper at one time. But Patrick was talking to me about property taxes. You know that the average property tax bill in New Jersey is average $6,800. And you know that that is the highest in the nation. So if that helps you understand, which you probably already did because you're smart people, there we go. Now, Scott, we are good to go, right? So we would like to get your answers to some of the things that Scott just talked about. Before we do that, I want to know, in that pie chart that Pat showed you, the 10% of the people who think it's okay as it is. Now, we know we have a lot of people involved in government in New Jersey. So you take all the 566 municipalities, add all those folks up, and everybody in state government. Is that the 10% who think it's okay? Or is there somebody else? When we get to that question, I want to see, actually, I'd love to see the show of hands because, I would take one of my new wooden arrows and probably shoot it at you. But, all right, so we are good. All right? First thing, little demographics here. Your age category. If you are under 30, as I am, put A. If you're over 60, as I also am, all right, so A, B, C, D. We want to get a little slice of who you are. You have these seconds to vote. 3, 2, 1, vote. And we see if it works. All right. So we have a fairly decent cross-section once we get past that under 30 crowd. Next question. This is an easy one. If you're conflicted, that's okay. Just don't vote. Male, female, 1, 2. 3, 2, 1, vote. Okay. We should be closer to 50-50, but we'll work at it. Next question. Race. Pick one. I want to be a Pacific Islander. It seems kind of romantic and, year-round tan, all that stuff. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we got a white crowd. Next. Household income. I know we're all over 200, but some of you put a lower number just so it seems like we're not all rich people. 3, 2, 1. Go. All right, we have a pretty decent cross-section. Next question. Are you from North, Central, or South Jersey? If you're from South Jersey, please see me later. We're forming a club. So North, Central, South, or you're from another state. Confusion, frustration, Delaware, any of the above. All right, 3, 2, 1, vote. Most of you are on a short commute today from Central New Jersey. Next question. Are you a registered voter? I think you should lie here and just say yes if you're not, okay? 3, 2, 1, vote. Good, way to lie. All right. And now we'll do the proverbial, do you intend to vote? No, we won't do that. Next question. Are you a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, or you just don't care? 3, 2, 1. Okay. We have more independents, almost twice as many independents as we do Republicans in the audience. Next question, Scott. Have you ever held elected or appointed office? This should be very telling. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, Gil. All right, I thought it was going to be skewed differently. So what do I know? Next. Who will win the presidential election? I guess you could say somebody else other than these two, but we're going to kind of limit you. 3, 2, 1. Okay, not looking good for the red state people. Next question. Who will win in New Jersey? 3, 2, 1. Okay, you're pretty definite about that. Next question. Who will win the Senate race? Lautenberg or Zimmer? 3, 2, 1. Senator Lautenberg is breathing a sigh of relief. All right. Next question, Scott. How worried are you about the current state of the economy? On a scale of 1 to 10 now. 1 means you're not worried, and if you aren't, would you lend me some money, please, for my Wood and Arrow company? And if you're very worried, that means you're kind of suicidal, maybe. All right? Or if not suicidal, at least somewhere up there on that part of the scale. 3, 2, 1. Okay. We have 36, 24, that's 67. Over 70% of you are pretty damn worried, I would say. All right, next, Scott. Who's to blame for the financial meltdown? Now, unfortunately, we can't do multiple votes, can we, Scott? You can? All right, you may, I guess you can vote for as many as you want then? Oh, all right. Pick one, sorry. Bush, Bernanke, Paulson, Congress, the SEC, Freddie and Fannie, Wall Street, Main Street, which would be us. Sinister forces, they've always worked well in government. I don't know that they've had a comeback since Alexander Haig's days, but... all right. Oh, bummer dude. But you do have numbers, right? All right, so let's do the numbers. 1 is Bush, 2 is Bernanke. All right. J, or 1 Bush, 2 Bernanke, 3 Paulson, 4 Congress, 5 SEC, 6 Freddie and Fannie, 7 Wall Street, 8 Main Street, 9 Sinister Forces, 10 all of the above. All right, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm surprised. Are you surprised? All right. Next question. What grade do you give the Bush administration? It does not go below F, so don't ask me that question. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you guys are tough graders. You know, if you go and rate my professor, Bush is not going to like this. All right. What grade do you give Governor Corzine? knowing that he has a big package he's going to tell you about tomorrow. All right. 3, 2, 1. No A's, 23% B's, C's, D's, and E's dominate. I don't think that would be a report card the governor would be happy to take home to his parents. Okay, next. Are you, this is for our purposes, Leadership New Jersey is the organization that presents this. Are you an LNJ graduate, yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Whoa. All right. I guess we're fairly inbred. Okay. What were the most important issues or areas on the public's mind when you were in the LNJ program? So if you are an LNJ graduate, which more than half of you are, pick the thing that was most important. This is a tracking question that comes up every year. Pick one, the most important issue or area. 3, 2, 1, go. So it was education. No, I'm sorry. It was government and politics, followed by education, followed by the economy. All right, next question. On which of the following issues or areas have New Jersey's leaders made progress since you were in the LNJ program? You all look so young. You probably were in the program last year, so there hasn't been a lot of time for progress. All right, progress, 1 to 10. 3, 2, 1, vote. All right, who can read those little? The economy is, we made progress. All right, the environment, we made progress, and education, we made progress. And, okay. All righty, next question. Not made progress. In other words, this is where you think we've dropped the ball since you did this, whatever your LNJ year was. 3, 2, 1. So we haven't made too much progress in the whole government politics thing. But we certainly have solidified our reputation as the most corrupt state in the country. I mean, you know, you got to, it's branding. Whatever your leadership position is, say it proudly. All right, next question. Who will win the World Series? I'm going to guess you're not going to be voting for the Red Sox. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right. That would be a South Jersey kind of answer. All right. Next question. Jets, Giants, Eagles, don't care. Last year, don't care won. It was a very snooty sort of, you know, elitist group. All right. 3, 2, 1. Somebody cares. Would you like to have a distributorship for my Wooden Arrow Company? I like your enthusiasm. Next. Do you believe home rule impacts our ability to get meaningful reform? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay, the 14% of you who don't, let's talk about around lunchtime, okay? Next. Should New Jersey have regional tax sharing? I don't think I need to try to define that for you. Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay. 3/4 of you think yes. Next question, Scott. Should we regionalize safety services, fire, police, etc.? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was pretty clear cut. Next question. Should we have a county structure as opposed to our proliferation of municipalities? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Are you bothered when by people who stay on the payroll? Nobody would do this. We're going to pass over this question. This is purely a hypothetical question. It doesn't belong in this consideration set. Just kidding. Are you bothered by people who stay on the payroll for the benefit of an increased pension? I wish I could, so I'm actually just pissed off that I can't, and I'm going to vote that way. Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. All right, the same 15%. The people who think we don't have, too many municipalities, are you the same folks who are voting for this? Are you willing to? All right, next. Should we ban dual office holding in New Jersey? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's that same 13, 14. There are those outliers, and I guess at that rate you can't say outlier, Patrick. I don't know what's the right term. There's a distinct minority here that keeps cropping up. If you're overlapping, we need you to identify yourselves because we want to kill you. No, just kidding. Should there be a salary cap for positions, meaning in government? In the private sector, absolutely not. You should be able to get $500 million a year before your company goes bankrupt and be able to keep it. All right, yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Do you agree that we should tie the state's fiscal plan to the state development and redevelopment plan? You get that, right? You're smart guys. Yes or no? 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Should we shift from property to income tax? This doesn't allow a lot of room for subtlety in terms of the details, but yes or no? 3, 2, 1. So you think we should. Maybe you think we should do what Massachusetts is doing. Aren't they having a vote on eliminating the state income tax in Massachusetts? Who's up on that? I think that's happening in Massachusetts. All right, next. Should vouchers be used to allow parents the financial latitude to participate in school activities with their children? I have no idea what that means. I don't think that's right. I think we messed that up somehow. We're going to pass over that. I think it was supposed to be a school voucher question and probably got messed up with something else. So the same person who didn't put, how many of you were here at the very beginning this morning? Remember who we have specially to thank? Birdsall Engineering. Okay, we left them off the list of sponsors. The same dumb person who did that and who put 2 N's in the last name of our next speaker, that would be me, is probably responsible for this. All right, would you say things in New Jersey are going in the right direction or they've gotten off on the wrong track? You like it? 1. You don't like it? You don't know. Number 3. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we missed the train. We're on the wrong track, whatever. Next. List of issues facing the state. For each question, please tell me. Wow, this is very personal. How much of a problem it is on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means no problem. 10 means it's a very serious problem. You may use any number between 1 and 10. How much of a problem is property taxes? 1 to 10. 1, nothing. 10, big problem, suicidal, all that stuff. 3, 2, 1. That's that same 13%. You don't think property taxes are a problem? Who are you people? There is no box lunch for you today. Or I need to be educated. I need to sit down and talk to you and understand where you're coming from. Next, cost of living. 1 to 10. 1, no problem. 10, big problem. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Wasteful government spending. That's kind of like, smart growth. Who's not in favor of smart growth? Because what's the alternative? Dumb growth? All right. Wasteful government spending. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Healthcare costs. You know that in this state, the average healthcare cost, insurance cost for a family is $10,400 across the country. It's about half that, $5,700. All right, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. I feel like I'm at a tennis match. You know, it's like this baseline rally that's going on back and forth. Somebody come to the net. And political corruption. This is probably a plug for the book, The Soprano State. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next, Scott. Overdevelopment and sprawl. So just the pejorative terms, overdevelopment. Who's in favor of overdevelopment? Or is it a matter of not, whether we grow, but where we grow? Anyway, overdevelopment and sprawl. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Wow. That's the first little spike in the middle of the road, so to speak. Next. State worker pensions. Three, two, one. We didn't put in whether you think that school bus drivers should have cell phones and get paid overtime for charging them, but I would be interested in, if you're from Union County, I'm sure you have an opinion on that. All right, next. Attracting business to the state. Is it a big problem? 10. No problem at all. We're doing cool. 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Protecting the environment. 3, 2, 1. Wow. That's pretty dispersed. Is that a good polling term, Patrick? Dispersed? Thank you. I was looking for reinforcement. Next. The number of school districts we have, which I guess is, 611 or something in that range? Whatever it is. Many. If you're from a school district that has no schools, you may not vote. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Providing services for those in need, which probably the definition of that is changing even as we speak. But it's a good time to tell you that food, as usual, is provided by the people from the Community Food Bank of New Jersey, both your continental breakfast and lunch. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, how many more do we have of these, Scott? Okay, real quick. Next, quality of public schools. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next. Number of municipalities and local governments we have. I think we had something that was sort of redundant of this, but 3, 2, 1. Okay, we agree it's a problem. Next. Structure of the New Jersey government, including both state and local governments, needs to be improved, or does it work well enough as it is right now? I think this was like our right track, wrong track, but needs to be improved or works well enough. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Any more, Scott? If you selected needs to be improved, select one of the following. Major changes, minor changes. This is basically the Monmouth question. Major changes, minor changes, works well enough as it is now. We know that 14% of you are going to put C. 3, 2, 1. You chickened out. Okay. Any more, Scott? That's it. All right. Now, give yourselves a hand. Here's the tricky part of the day. It comes in 5 segments, not counting lunch. In each of those segments, there are going to be people who talk to you briefly, but for about 5 minutes or so. Then we will go to a series of speakers. Here's the premise on which they've been invited. They are, by definition, by our definition, among the best and brightest people in New Jersey, as are you. They have not been asked to come to give a speech. They've not been asked to come and tell you what their ideas are and why you should like their ideas. They've been asked to come merely, only, to tell you, as Bob Franks did so well in the setup this morning, what their ideas are. They have 4 minutes. Catherine Kish has a taser gun, which she can use. She does it. Catherine, ring the bell so they know what the bell sounds like. When you hear that, your time is up. All right? So they will have that time. And we, at the end of each one, will do what we did with Bob. We will ask you what you thought of their 2 or 3 ideas that they presented. All right? So you are involved every step of the way. Our first 2 speakers, not in the group of 50, but people who are sort of going to set the stage in the intellectual sense, are Diane Brake. Diane has 2 N's. And Tim McDonough. McDonough has only 1 N. So shoot me. Together you have the right number of N's. So Diane Brake and Tim McDonough.
You go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead. I don't know. Based on that survey, I'm not sure I want to go on with what I have to say. But anyway, what we're supposed to look at is revolutionizing or changing things if we had the opportunity to do that. So if government were starting over in New Jersey, and if we were given a blank slate, if we were free to start anew, we would have to start with the municipalities. And if we find that municipal government to be efficient, effective, and economical, and if it gives the private citizen a good opportunity to participate in the political process, to energize discussions with elected and appointed policymakers, and to actually influence public policy outcome, I'm here to tell you that I think local municipal government does that. And if that is the case, do we really need any other form of local government? In order to determine how to construct a new government system based on this, we must first ask ourselves, what is wrong with government today? You know the numbers. The first is that we have too many layers of government. We have 21 counties, 566 municipalities, and 616 school districts. There are just too many levels of government in New Jersey today. And the second, with all the levels of government, it is no surprise that New Jersey is number 1, and I think it was alluded to this, in the total tax burden per capita, which includes both state and local property taxes. In sum, too much government bureaucracy has to leads us to too high of tax burden to the residents of New Jersey. So what do we do about this burden? I've heard over the past few years the argument that we should be consolidating local municipalities, doing more in consolidating services, and we should be doing this maybe into respective county or regional governments, and thus realizing certain economies in that process. However, I submit that instead of the county swallowing up the local municipalities, we should consider eliminating county government as a cost savings. My premise is based on the following 2 main thoughts. First is that in a democracy, the citizens hold the power, I believe, as New Jersey residents to believe, and they hold on and do not want to abandon the tradition of home rule. They, in fact, do not want their localities to cease to exist. And the second is that many services provided by the counties are either being provided by the state or local governments today. In other words, county government and the services they provide are in fact redundant. The next question, I believe, is why are municipalities in a better position to represent the constituents, better than the counties? Number 1, local governments are more accountable to their constituents. They're much more visible and accessible. Local governments are better able to understand the issues in their communities, and reaction time is much faster. Local communities know that what is most important to the residents, and they know what residents are willing to trade off for higher taxes for those services. Over the past 5 years, municipalities have learned to share services, and we are realizing a tremendous amount of savings right now. The state of New Jersey, with its 21 counties, in the final analysis, is an artifice, imposed on the geography of the east coast of North America by a king and council in England. Take, for example, the county of Warren, which where I'm from, Hope Township. This was an administrative unit detached from Sussex County and imposed on the people of Northwest New Jersey back in 1825. This was done as an act of the New Jersey legislature and didn't include a random or a participation of the people that makes up that district. Let me close. Our 566 municipalities, on the other hand, are living, breathing, organic offspring of the will of the people of the state of New Jersey. And they do, believe me, they are what we call the will of the people. And I say our 21 counties, who needs them? Turn it over to Diane.
Okay. My understanding of the question was, how many is too many? Certainly, I can't do better than Alan Karcher did in his book, Multiple Municipal Madness. But I think that, as you see from the polls, we often ask, are there too many? But I would argue that that is the wrong question. What we're talking about is, how do we deliver services to the people of New Jersey, and what is the right level of government to do it? I certainly don't disagree with anything that you've said, Mayor, about the responsiveness of local government to local issues. But the problem that we have in the structure of government today, particularly in the field of land use, which affects whether or not we can grow jobs or whether we can protect the environment or provide affordable housing or provide auto-dependent or transit-oriented development, there are a number of things that local government does with land use that cannot ever really add up to achieving the goals that we need to achieve in New Jersey. So what we've done is we've given local government some of the wrong things to do. And so I would argue that what we really need is a restructuring and leave local issues to local government, allow that responsiveness, which certainly is one of the benefits of local government, but to try to figure out what is it as a state that we are trying to achieve, that we're trying to get better economic prosperity, an improved environment, restored environment in some places, protected environment in others. And that we're trying to move to a growth capacity in our transportation system, which really can only come from transit, not from more auto dependency. We have concentrated poverty in some of our communities that needs to be addressed. Social, racial, economic segregation is one of the most serious problems that New Jersey faces. So what I'm suggesting is that a framework be developed in which could then provide parameters for local governments to operate. Business is now taking from science of complex theory, chaos theory, complexity theory, the idea that global business can no longer do a command and control kind of operation. That because they have to coordinate many millions of individual decisions and have them all add up to moving towards corporate goals, they found that instead of command and control, what they want is something more akin to how flocks of birds manage to migrate without bumping into each other. And what that is a simple set of rules that become the framework for individual decision making. We've come up with a number of these decisions in our little book. It's on our website in Plan Smart New Jersey. I don't have time to go into it because Catherine's about to give me the bell. But what we really need are performance measures that are taken from statewide goals, given down to regions, watersheds, commuter sheds, and I think the function for county could be to convene their municipalities so that they can come up with how are we going to achieve this region's affordable housing, transit aspirations, and environmental protection. I think this could work, and that's my suggestion for the day. Thank you.
All right, so I think it's been kind of pretty much fun so far, but it gets even better now because it's like the race to the finish. So it's up to you to judge whether our speakers do what we have asked. So I'll repeat, since the first group of speakers are probably all in the room right now. Here's the deal. We have gone and solicited 50 of the smartest, most experienced minds we could find, not necessarily in the traditional mainstream, but people who have certainly made their mark, whose thinking is respected. We've asked them to come here not to talk to you necessarily about what they do, but to use that experience to suggest to you, as Bob Franks did at the outset, ideas that they think could begin to provide a new model, a 21st century model for governing New Jersey, could have some substantial salutary impact on what happens in this state. They will talk to you about whatever they want. The ideas, they will give you the ideas. They will not give you all the supporting proselytization that goes with those ideas. They have 4 minutes. Catherine is a tough cookie. The bell is soft. If you go over the bell, you don't want to see what Catherine will do to you. All right? So speakers, there are cards right here. Catherine, hold up one of the cards. You start at 2 minutes. We give you a 2-minute warning, a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, a 0-second warning. And then, as Catherine did to me, if you're still up here, we say bye-bye. All right? So none of this Brokaw, easygoing stuff, we're going to crack down. All right? And remember later, Wooden Arrows, Mike Willmann's New Jersey Company, vote for that, please. All right. So are we ready to roll? You get to vote on the ideas, just as you did on Bob Frank's ideas. We're going to start with a person who just has an extraordinary reputation, having been a veteran of state government, Jack Latier. Jack?
Good morning. Transportation in my life. But we all have to recognize, thank you, that we have lost the public's trust. How do I know that? Well, I know that because every time there's any issue of raising revenues for transportation, namely a gas tax or some other thing like that, there's an unwillingness to pay. People do not see that the value that they're getting for the product and services they receive. That's a fact of life. They'll spend $399 for an iPod, but not 2 more cents for transportation. And you know what? Perhaps we don't deserve it. Here's what I'm proposing to gain the public trust. Number one, we have to provide these services, whether you're building a roadway or a rail system or engineering, providing that at the lowest possible cost. Do we do that in New Jersey? Do we do it nationally? No. Our paradigm of producing projects as projects doesn't work anymore. 2, we have not provided folks with a vision of transportation. What are you spending your motor fuels tax or your transit fare, what are you spending it on? What do you see as an end result of this investment? We tell them how many bridges we're going to fix. We tell them how many train rides we're going to have. That doesn't exactly inspire investment in the transportation system. 3, we don't have an alignment. Our interests are not aligned. Transportation is the game board upon which everything is played, and we have no alignment with locals, we have no alignment with business, and we have no alignment with the environment. And that has to change. And here's my suggestion. 1, to produce, first, a transportation vision has to be produced. What is it, and what is the transportation system going to do? In very simple terms. Number 1, for example, how are we going to reduce your commuting time? How many fewer lives are going to be lost on our highways? How much less time are you going to spend at traffic lights when no one is crossing on the cross streets? And a vision that can be clearly articulated so people can understand what they're investing their dollars in. 2, which I think is the biggest, we have to change the structure of transportation. I think we should consolidate all of the transportation agencies, DOT, NJ Transit, all of the toll authorities into a transportation commission where planning across all modes is done. It reduces operating costs. It'll give you a better product because now we will be in a performance and outcome-based society where we are accountable for what we're doing. As a quick example, if we were to reduce congestion and reduce your travel time, it has land use implications to it. If we are not reducing the number of deaths in the state of New Jersey, maybe we should be putting more into public education rather than better line stripes. So my idea, consolidate, plan, and be accountable under one transportation agency, a transportation commission. Thank you.
Stay here. Stay here. You got to suffer the indignity of whatever the response is.
I've done that before.
All right. I'm going to try to synopsize, and if I get it wrong, you tell me how we got it wrong. All right. So basically, I'm going to combine all those notions, the vision, the planning, one consolidation of all that in one transportation entity. Is that fair? All right. So if you like that idea, we're going to use Scott, can we use a 10 scale? Or should we use a 5? We'll use a 5. You like it a lot, you give it a 5. You don't like it, you give it a 1. Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vote. Okay. You got a...
Not bad.
Yep. Thank you very much. All right, for those of you who know what's going on and you saw the thing that said that was Jack Tarditi, that was not Jack Tarditi, that was Jack Laterre. But Jack Tarditi is next. Jack is probably best known as the mayor of South Jersey. He's currently the chairman of the board of the Community Foundation of South Jersey. If you are from the part of the state I come from, there's nobody who's better known. Jack, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Michael. And some of the top 50 couldn't make it, so I was brought on. Thank you, Michael, very much. I think it's been made very clear about the fact that we're buying too much government in New Jersey. And I think we need to be reminded, for example, from the Tax Foundation, that, again, we have the highest property tax in the USA, third highest income tax, 10th highest sales tax, and the 11th highest corporate tax rate. And it's ironic that today, the 15th of October, is the last day in which you can file your federal and state tax return. We're meeting here about money today. Let's make another comparison. Let's look at our neighboring state, Pennsylvania. We have a budget of $33 billion in New Jersey, serving about 9 million people. The Pennsylvania state budget is $29 billion, serving roughly 12 million people. The question I would raise is, are we as a state headed to bankruptcy? Why are our rich retirees, or even middle-income retirees, fleeing to Florida? No income tax, no state inheritance tax, lower property tax, and certainly warmer winters. I'm an optimist. I believe the Phillies will win the World Series this year, and I believe the Eagles will win the Super Bowl. But I suggest as a practical matter for going forward for this state, in 2009, we convene a constitutional convention. A constitutional convention composed not of elected officials, but of people like us that are not elected officials, to deal with government and funding, to restructure and redefine what our government should be in New Jersey. What are the appropriate levels of government? Should we continue to have schools, police, public works on a local level, or should it be in a county level like it is in many other states in the nation? Look at states like Virginia, Florida, Pennsylvania, New York. Look at our neighboring. Look at the fact that the neighboring states around us in total, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, have less school districts than we have in New Jersey. Why a constitutional convention? Very simple answer. We know, unfortunately, the legislature can't solve the problem. In 1989, when the legislature passed a $2.3 billion income tax, what happened to the legislature? They got swept out to sea. Those people are not going to forget. They're not going to do it again. Therefore, the only way we're going to change this is through a constitutional convention. The convention will be convened to deal with levels of government and how we pay for it. Keep in mind, again, that next year, in 2009, we'll elect a new governor. That new governor, whether it be an incumbent or a new person, that governor should take the results of that constitutional convention from 2009 and implement it in 2010. Whomever's elected will have to take that responsibility, but they've got 2 years to get that done before they have to start answering to the public. Keep in mind that we have a wonderful state, the second highest individual per capita income in the United States. But we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to reshape, remake, remodel our government so that we can have a government we can afford, a government that is competitive both in price, is effective, efficient, and that we have faith in.
Stay here. Stay here. Hang on. All right. So I'm going to boil that down and say the idea is a constitutional convention that will address levels of government and how we pay for things. Is that a fair synopsis? All right. So you are in favor of that idea. You give it a 5. You think it's a bum idea. You give it a 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have to switch sources. Let's try it again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote. All right. You get a 60%, Jack.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker on the list is the head of the Walter Rand Institute for Public Affairs at Rutgers Camden, Dr. Richard Harris.
Thanks a lot, Mike. I'm going to start out with 2 quick observations, and then I'm going to come up with or present to you an idea that mimics, really, what Diane was talking about. At the Institute, we do a lot of work in the city of Camden, and some of it revolves around public safety. Here's a data point for you. 67% of all the drug purchases in the city of Camden are made by people who do not live in the city of Camden. They come in from other parts of Camden County, they come from Burlington County, they come from Cumberland County. The point of that, of course, is that if you think that a municipality can handle a regional problem that's really regional, you're mistaken. Next point. I actually do a lot of bike riding in southern New Jersey. I ride from the Cherry Hill area out to 206. I even ride down to Cape May to take a ferry over. So I see a lot of South Jersey up close and personal. In the state of New Jersey, we have a state plan that is widely lauded across the nation as wonderful in its conceptualization. But if you ride through South Jersey like I do, over the last 10 or 15 years, you see that its aims have not really been met. And I think the reason it hasn't been met is because what we've done is taken a state planning system and superimposed it on top of a municipal planning and zoning regime. So the idea that I want to put to you is that rather than have a state regime imposed on municipalities, we need to think of a truly regional solution to regional problems. And the regional solution that I'd suggest to you is that county government needs to be empowered. County government needs to be empowered in 2 respects. Firstly, I think that there are services, not all municipal services, but there are services, and I'd point to schools and police in particular, that could be bumped up to the county level. Those of you that know the state of Maryland know that those services are provided at the county level. If you go to Montgomery County in Maryland, I'm sure the folks in Rockville and Bethesda don't feel as though their connection to their municipality is compromised, and the services are provided at a much more cost-effective way. Secondly, I think that planning decisions need to be made at the county level. Individual municipalities do not have the capacity to update their municipal plans. Some counties also don't have that capacity. What needs to happen, I think, is that the planning and decision-making function needs to be bumped up to the county level, and the counties need to bring municipalities together to plan for the entire region. So you don't have situations where municipalities are competing one with another. The situation we have right now is one in which municipalities behave rationally given all of the tax and fiscal incentives in front of them, but the outcomes are regionally irrational. Unless you can bump this kind of decision-making up to the county level, involve the state folks who are necessary to approve projects at the beginning so everyone can know at the outset what everybody's concerns are, and get the projects moving forward in a reasonable and responsible way. And you don't have the state coming in the 11th hour upsetting projects, and you have all of the municipalities connecting one with another under a county auspices. So county level planning.
Hang on.
I can't duck yet.
All right. So I would synopsize that this way, and Rich will tell me if I have butchered it. A regional solution, which we will call empowered county government. We're going to vote on two things. The first is what I would call consolidations of schools and police and things like that. That's just schools and police. Consolidate those two kinds of services at the county level. 5, you like it. 1, you don't like it. Vote. 3, 2, 1. Your evaluation is? Whoa. All right. That's almost, well, we won't go there. I would like that kind of vote for the wooden arrow thing later, guys. The second piece of this is that you would do planning, make planning decisions at the county level. You have the substrata there of including the state folks that need to be included.
And the municipalities.
And the municipalities, those irrational folks in the municipalities. So basically planning at the county level, not the municipal level. All right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vote. All right, not as big as the first one, but way big. Okay, thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Okay, so we're sort of getting in the swim of things as we're going to do this. Next speaker, and I want to refer you again to the bios. Don't think that we're trying to give people short shrift by not telling you all about them. You have bios that you picked up on the way in. These are all distinguished, thoughtful people with wonderful backgrounds. That's why they were invited. The next one of those distinguished, wonderful people is, drum roll, Gil Medina.
Well, not surprisingly, my concern is the economic growth of the state of New Jersey.